Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we are taking a look at 10 super obscure uh, PlayStation 1 horror theme games from my personal collection. I have played all of these games over the past few years as I've delved deeper into the horror genre. And because we are going pretty deep here in terms of obscurity, uh, a lot of these games are going to be Japanese imports, so I do apologize for those of you that can't play Japanese imports, but hopefully this persuades you to maybe come to the world of Japanese PlayStation 1 import collecting. So what do you say we get started here? Now, all the gameplay that I'm going to be showing you is from my streams. I've streamed all these on Twitch, on my Twitch channel, and I will have links below if you want to check out my full gameplay, full playthroughs, or however many hours or however long I played these games. You'll be able to find that in the description below. So the first game here is a game called, this is a mouthful, bear with me here, Kowai Shashin Shinrei Shashin Kitan,
Oh my god.
loosely translated to Scary Photos. Now, this is probably the most obscure one in this video, and it's a pretty cool one. It's very simple in its premise, so you're actually looking through pictures. It's almost like a hidden picture game, right? Where you survey the environments and you look for scary images. Maybe it's a face hidden in the corner, or a hand resting on somebody's shoulder, or just something that seems out of the ordinary off in the corner of the picture. And then when you find these images, you select it.
That is a tough one.
And then
Good enough
see,
though.
right there, I select. Some of them are pretty obvious, but that one there, like the hand under the driver's seat of this guy's car. When you select these creepy images, it'll go to a battle scene where you will fight the ghost or the apparition, and then you do a quick little mini game where you have to hit the buttons in the ring that it produces. Like right here, you're going to see. So I have to do square, square, X, whatever the heck the combination was, square, square, triangle, square, and things get really complicated as you see here. So the button combinations get way more complex, way faster, and the game gets pretty challenging later on. So what do you say we just skip here and see if I can show you another example. There is story stuff. So like here, there's a creepy little kid face under the car. There's story to this game. It's just done in text. You don't need to know any Japanese to play this game. You'll be completely fine. Let's see what we've got here. Like that one there, got a hand resting on her shoulder. And the cool little story behind this game is it's quite rare. It's not a very common game.
Oh my god, you guys got a good eye.
So apparently some people, wow, there was something hidden on the right there. Wow, that's pretty well hidden there. So the story behind this game in Japan is that
was a tough one.
it's actually, this was, of course it's all fake, but apparently this game is haunted in Japan, where
I don't think
these photos, apparently the ghosts that are in the photos of this game got mad at the developers for including these photos because they're actually haunted photos. It's a cool little backstory behind the game. Obviously it's not real, but it's still got a cool little history behind it, and quite infamous within Japan. So that's the first game. The next game that we're going to be checking out is one called, let me get this ready here for you. Another slight mouthful here. This is Vampire Kyuuketsuki Densetsu, loosely translated to Vampire Legend of the Vampire. So this is a game developed by ArtDink, and they were really well known during the time for coming out with games that were out there, very outside of the box thinking, and this game is no exception. So what you're seeing here is it's a vampire simulator. So you play as a character that, I don't remember the exact premise behind it, but the loose premise is that you come to this town and there's essentially a vampire war. So there's another vampire that lives in this mansion or this house in this village, and as you can see, I'm tracking him here on this map. So that's the other vampire. I couldn't quite 100% figure out how to play this because knowledge of Japanese is quite high needed to play this game, but the general idea is you're trying to compete with this other vampire, and the really cool thing about it is there's other villagers in the game, so you're like trying to drink their blood and visit them at night and gain their power before the other vampire does. And you can transform into a wolf, you can transform into a bat. As you can see here, this is an example of draining that NPC's blood in his house as I visited him at night, but the other vampire is trying to do the same thing. Little tiny bit hard to figure out, but I think if you have the patience to kind of fumble around with this one, it might be a pretty unique concept that leave it to ArtDink to come up with something that's a little outside the box. So just a quick glimpse at that one. And next up we have Okay, so I wanted to include an American game in here for you guys, and this is probably the most well-known game on my list in terms of how many people are going to know it. But this is Overblood, and I really wanted to highlight Overblood because since I streamed this game, and once again, you can check if you want to watch my full playthrough of this, I'll have a link in the description below. It took me about 6 hours to beat this game. Overblood has become one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games, possibly even my favorite PlayStation 1 horror game that I've ever played. I know that says a lot. It's very janky. The graphics, as you can see, the cutscenes have got some jank to them, as do the voice acting. But it's just got this really haunting overtone in this sort of space station area, and you got your little sidekick robot friend there, Peepo. It's quite a janky horror game. Let's see if I can jump around here for you and give you a sense for maybe I can find some combat. It's a lot of wandering around, a lot of backtracking. As you can see, the animations are also pretty stiff. There's not a terrible amount of combat in this, and there is a fair amount of puzzle solving. There's not a lot of combat, which is also why I'm having a hard time finding some. But I just think the overall atmosphere and mood of Overblood, when it comes to the music, the eeriness, the overall plot of this game. Here's some good combat for you. Oh, perfect scene. So we stab that zombie in this one of my favorite cutscenes on the PlayStation run.
First zombie encounter, seriously.
Oh man.
You got nothing on Overblood.
Anyway, Overblood will take you an evening to finish. It's got some janky platforming in it though as well. So be prepared for a little bit of aggravation in terms of falling into endless pits. But I just wanted to spread more love and spread more awareness for Overblood because it is by far one of the best PlayStation 1 horror games you can play. And if you haven't played it, do yourself a favor and pick it up before the game becomes even more expensive because I feel like it's pretty underrated in that regard. All right, next up is one of the rarest PlayStation 1 games ever made. This is a game called Germs, Nerawareta Machi. And this is very loosely a horror-themed game, but it is horror, and it usually is classified as a horror game online. A very ambitious game. It's a first-person game, very heavy on Japanese text, very heavy on story, very, very, very hard to play if you do not know Japanese. Now, what I did to actually play this game, I'm in the middle of a playthrough right now. I'm about 4.5 hours into the game. I actually created a walkthrough for myself. With the video reference from a Japanese playthrough, so I would know what to do. Now, this game is open world. This is a very, very early open world game, so let me give you a glimpse of what that looks like. So as you can see here on the outside world, it's actually huge. The map is gigantic. Actually, the copy of the game, if I have the manual here, let me show you this real fast. So it actually comes with a world map. And what you see me exploring here, it's all in black and white. It's got a very creepy feel to it. But here's the map that comes with the game. And as you can see, eat your heart out, Silent Hill. This map is gigantic. And traversing from one side of the game world to the other would actually take you a ton of time, as I have come to realize. And everything is on a day-night cycle. So certain characters are only home, or certain stores are only open at certain times of the day. There are restaurants that you can go to refill your health. You can drive a car around. Let me see if I can find some car footage for you. Oh, here's the in-game map. There's a subway system. I'm taking the bus right now to get from one spot to the other, as you're going to see here in a second. Or no, I just got off the bus, rather. And you can ride your car around to get from place to place. When it comes to the actual gameplay, there are these locations that you visit, such as this, where you fight mutated people. So the general story of this game is that you're a journalist coming back to your hometown to investigate a mysterious glowing object that's sort of hit in this town, and people are becoming mutated, and you're coming to investigate as a journalist. So here I'm fighting one of the bosses of the game, some mutated dog. The combat is super janky. It's actually very similar to almost like Morrowind, right, where you can aim at an enemy and it'll have a chance at hitting. So there are stats, you level up your weapons, but you can be pointing straight at an enemy and shooting, but it could potentially be missing the shots. It's not skill based. It's got RPG elements to it as well. Some of the enemies are pretty hideous. Let me see if I can find one for you here. But this here will give you a good sense of. Let's see if I can find a driving sequence for you. Okay, here we're in the church, which is one of the creepiest areas of the game. I got stuck here a little bit, though. Okay, here I'm fighting the boss of the church, and you can kind of get a sense for how weird the enemy designs start getting in this. So this combat here pretty much boils down to me just circle strafing and swiping my knife at these guys. And as you can see, I'm missing, 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 missing. Once in a while, I'll get a hit. So that's the random RPG element of the combat in this game. You can go back to your office and you can check your computer. Here I'm in my office playing around with the secretary there. She kind of stores weapons for you. There's also no true ending to this game. But just to show you an example of how text heavy this game can be, here's your emails. Good luck figuring that out. Let's see if I can find... Here's Mr. Smiley. This guy is super creepy. Let me see if I can bring him up here. Oh, he was there for just a brief moment. Sorry, this is my new approach to making videos. Makes it a little easier on myself in terms of editing. Here's an example of the world map. So I'm bringing up my map in my car to kind of choose where I want to go. This is after I died. When you die in this game, you turn into an alien, and you can see in the top screen here. So I had to go to a hospital to cure myself of the disease. Pretty crazy stuff. Pretty crazy game. I just want to show you a little bit more here. So this is a part of the game where you have to go around and clear out this warehouse of the enemies, and just check out this. There's Mr. Smiley, by the way. Check out these enemies here that I'm about to fight. Not everything are aliens in this game. Some things are, well... Hold on, I think I'm taking a pause there. Some things, as you can see... If I can quickly... It's not the best to be able to fumble around here. Well, anyway, I was about to fight... Oh, well, here's a good example. I was about to fight a forklift. And this is the boss of that area. So you can kind of get a sense for how weird this game is. It's pretty darn rare, though. So if you're interested in playing this game, you're probably going to want to try and emulate it. Just a heads up. Alrighty. Next game is another English game. Gotta give some love to the US games. This one here is one that I just played not that long ago, about a week ago. This is Dracula the Resurrection, and this is the opening cutscene. So the cool thing about this game is that this is actually an official sequel to the novel Dracula. So this picks up right after the novel. This is pretty much the end of the book here. And the game picks up right after the end of the book. And it's a point-and-click, sort of like pixel hunting game. But man, was this game super creepy, super atmospheric. It's also available on PC. However, the PlayStation 1 version is a very suitable alternative if you don't want to play this on PC. Do not play the Steam version, however. I did read that the Steam version is kind of broken. So if you're going to play it, play PlayStation 1, or maybe the GOG version of this is perhaps a little bit better. So let's see if I can show you a little bit of the exploration in town. The cutscenes in this game are actually super impressive for the time. So it's one of these sort of like fishbowl point and clicks where you're looking around a fishbowl type image, and then when you click somewhere that you want to move, it'll instantly warp you there. Let's see if I can get you an FMV from... Oh yes, this woman, super creepy. The FMVs in this game are something, let me tell you. Let's see. So yeah, I'm going to talk to her, and this will give you a good idea of what to expect from this game's characters as well as FMVs. Yeah, let me turn up the volume.
It's late. The road is long and hardly safe. You must be exhausted. Don't bother about going to the castle tonight. I'll get your room ready, and tomorrow
So yeah, pretty good example. Despite the goofy looking characters, some of the cutscenes are really well done. The animation for the time is very impressive. There's a lot of pixel hunting in this game, though, so keep that in mind. Later puzzles can also get pretty complex if you're not 100% paying attention. It's got a lot of backtracking, so if you're not a fan of like placing an item and then having to go back to something that you previously visited a while ago to get some item back that you never thought you'd need to get back, you may not be a fan. Of course, the climax is that you end up in Dracula's castle. This game is also rated M, just a heads up. There is full nudity in this game, something you would not expect. I was playing this game, I'm like, man, why is this game rated M? I haven't seen quite anything that would warrant an M rating, but yeah, full nudity, so I'm not going to play that part for YouTube. You know, wouldn't be a point and click game without a clock puzzle. Some of the puzzles in this were actually really well done, but the thing that really sold me on this game in particular was the atmosphere, the sound, the music, the creepy music, the creepy sound effects, and just the sense of progression from one area to the next. There's 3 main areas in this game, was actually quite good. So if you're a fan of point-and-click adventure games, if you're looking for something a little on the spooky side for this October, maybe check out Dracula the Resurrection. It's actually a direct sequel to this game, also on the PlayStation 1, because this game does leave you on a cliffhanger. So if you're enjoying the story, there's a direct sequel that you can check out right afterwards. Alrighty, so let's get the next game prepared here. And this one is a little different than what you might be expecting. This is once again horror-themed games, and this is called Mizuki Shigeru no Yokai Butouden, or Butouden. So this is actually from the creator of the Gegege no Kitaro series, of which there's a platformer on the PlayStation 1 as well for that series that is fantastic. Really, really challenging, great platformer. This is a one-on-one fighting game, which is horror-themed because the characters are based on his creations of the yokai. So this is one of the very few horror-themed PlayStation 1 fighting games, and let me see if I can get you here to some gameplay. As you can see, super janky. It's kind of fun for an hour or so. You know, don't expect too much out of this one. It's also a decently uncommon game. It's not something you're going to find everywhere, but I just thought it would be fun to include this one because it's one that a lot of people probably aren't even aware of existing. And I would argue this is definitely a horror-themed game. Let me see if I can find you gameplay a little deeper in. I think I played as a different character. No, still playing as my my eagle guy there, but we're fighting a kappa right now. And as you can see, the animations in this are a little out there. Oh, here, this might be the final boss. I don't remember. So yeah, if you got some friends and you're in the one-on-one fighting games, check this one out. It might be fun for a little bit. Let's see, how far did I get? Yeah, that's pretty much the end boss right there. So it's one of those games you could beat in half an hour. So that is everything I have in terms of recommendations that I have gameplay for. The following recommendations are going to be for games that, unfortunately, I no longer have my streams archived for these games. I have played them, and I can hopefully just give you a little bit of a recommendation on these. So, you know, just check out YouTube if any of my descriptions for these sound interesting to you. So the next one is going to be one that is in English. However, it never got released in North America, and this is for The Note. Really simple title. It's released in Japan and in PAL region. So, you know, if you have a PAL PS2, pick this up and maybe give it a shot. However, I will warn you, this game is super primitive and janky. The best way I can describe this game is if Resident Evil were completely in first person with crazy bad animations and polygons and combat. Like, if you can just imagine the worst possible Resident Evil clone in first person, that would be The Note. But that doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't play it. It's really campy. It's fun in that regard, and just how bad the game like looks and plays. I was not able to finish this one. I made it maybe like 5-ish hours in. I got stuck in the final area because combat really ramps up in the enemies that you're battling, and things get pretty outlandish. You know, you start the game off and you're kind of just exploring these rooms that have bats and dogs, you know, typical survival horror stuff, trying to solve a mystery that I can't even recall what the heck the story was about in this game. But, you know, if you like survival horror and you're looking for something a little different in the first person with some light puzzle solving and super primitive janky combat, check out The Note. Actually published by Sunsoft. I kind of forgot that. So check out The Note. I actually still recommend it. Pretty rare, though. You might have to wait a little bit for a copy of that to show up for a decent price. All right, next up is Dark Tales from the Lost Soul, and this one is Japanese only. Check out the cover art for this one, though. A realistic-looking part kind of sets the mood for this one. It's a very disturbing game. There's some imagery in this that you would not expect from an old PlayStation 1 game in terms of themes. It's different scenarios that you can play through, so like little mini stories. The best way I can describe this game is like if Creepshow had its own game, you know, with different little narratives throughout. That would pretty much be this game. Despite being completely in Japanese, it's definitely playable. There are certain story segments, though, and portions of the game that you'll have no idea what's going on and have a little bit of problem progressing through. But if you fumble your way through it, just clicking around, you'll eventually get through it. One of the highlights for me was one of the areas in the game was sort of set to this dark carnival theme park. And the way the game works is it's just a lot of moving, sort of like a walking simulator. And once in a while, the game will present you with a choice, either like A or B. Do you want to go left? Do you want to go right? Do you want to attack this enemy? Do you want to not attack? Do you want to like flip the switch? Do you not want to flip the switch? And then your choices have consequences, some of which have some really creepy imagery and things that pop up and consequences and ways to end the game. So if sort of a walking simulator, choose your own adventure horror game sounds like it's up your alley, check this one out. It's also pretty short. It shouldn't take you too long to beat. Alrighty, next is another one that you can play in English. One that's also fairly well known these days. It has been getting a bit more of a highlight lately. This one I played like 4 years ago. So it's been a while since I played it. However, this is one of my absolute favorite horror games that I've ever played. This was released in Japan and, of course, in Europe. So if you have a PAL PS2 or a PAL PS1, you can also play this one. It's getting pretty pricey, though, for the English version copy of this. Not released in North America. Getting pretty pricey. Also published by Atlas, so that's going to cause some issues for people trying to scoop this up for their collections. But this one here is a very dystopian, almost like steampunk setting where you're underground and you're fleeing from this monster that is constantly stalking you the whole game. So, you know, think Resident Evil where you're getting stalked by the Tyrant, right? Or Mr. X. And just think of that premise as an entire game with only that monster is the only enemy. And you're fleeing from it the whole game, and it's like evolving and getting stronger and scarier. And there's a lot of NPCs in this game that you can visit, and I think the thing that really sold me on it was just the creepy vibe, but also the different scenarios that can play out. So there's certain characters that you can kind of recruit with you in one playthrough, and then the next playthrough you can like say, forget that character, I'm going to recruit another character and bring them with me. So it's got crazy replayability. I can definitely see myself playing this again soon, like maybe even next year for when I do another horror month stream where every October I play nothing but horror games on my Twitch channel. I can see myself coming back to this one and playing more of it. Phenomenal game, believe the hype, it's worth the price. If you're a fan of horror games, you have to play this one. Okay, and last but definitely not least is a game called DevilMan. Now this is based on some manga, anime. I don't know. I don't have any familiarity with the source material, but this one is super underrated in that this is a somewhat traditional survival horror game, survival horror on the PlayStation 1. Japan only, unfortunately, so this never got any English release, which will cause some problems because not everything is straightforward as to where you need to go. But you can fumble your way through this, and there are playthroughs on YouTube, so if you do get stuck, you can just reference one of the playthroughs on YouTube. It's a third-person action survival horror, where, of course, eventually you gain the ability to turn into the Devilman, but just the beginning of the game kind of blew me away, where it's set in this mansion, really creepy mansion. You're doing typical survival horror stuff like picking up healing items, ammo. The draw distance is really dark, so you can't see too far ahead of you. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, slight spoilers here, this giant spider woman just comes chasing me down these hallways, and I'm trying to hide from her. Like, it sets it up where you're walking down a hallway, and suddenly you see a whole bunch of cobwebs or stuff on the walls, and then the giant spider just bursts out and starts chasing you through the hallways and rooms. And man, it was super surprising. Wasn't expecting that from this game. It is definitely survival horror. Don't think this is like some janky action game or something. Like it's somewhat playable, it's pretty creepy, and it deserves a spot in this list. So there are many more games that I could have included on here, but hopefully this was just a good selection of games that maybe you haven't seen. I do apologize for the sort of janky setup here, but it does allow me to get videos out to you guys on a timely manner that I otherwise probably wouldn't have time to make because I'm streaming all the time. So once again, just a quick plug for my Twitch channel here. I do stream full time on twitch.tv/PeteDorr. Love to have you guys stop down. We're nearing the end of October, so that means I'm going to be ending my horror month streams pretty soon, but I got a whole back catalog of them you can check out. I'm actually in the middle of playing through my first playthrough of Resident Evil 2 Remake at this very moment. I'll be returning to that tonight. But yeah, I invite you to come down to my Twitch channel. I'm playing all kinds of weird stuff like this all the time. I definitely specialize in Japanese PlayStation 1 and Japanese PlayStation 2 games. So if you're looking for really a lot more obscure games that you maybe not have heard of, I'd love to have you down there. Anyway, that's going to do it for me here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your October. And thank you for watching.